there seems to be some internet rumblings you guys might be doing a Randy Rhoads tribute show. Is there any truth to that?
The only truth and rumblings about that are people who decide to do that on the internet.
All right. Fair enough.
I mean, it's, there's a lot of people who, and I give them all the credit in the world for being very creative and for throwing ideas out there and putting things online. And I know, and I've heard of campaigns to get this person on the show and do this sort of show and that sort of show. And what people don't quite understand is that the network owns the show, and they ultimately make the decisions on what they do and don't want to do.
Right.
And they are driven by the guest value of who's available. They want the biggest names and faces that they can get. That's all they really care about. There's a ton of artists that I love and
right.
Don or Jim may love that don't necessarily get on the show just because the network wants big marquee name people. Now, certainly Randy Rhoads is a huge marquee person, but obviously, unfortunately, he's no longer with us.
Right.
So then the question becomes, okay, well, his entire base and his entire family is in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
We're now shooting in New York. Are these people that we would need to create a story here going to get on a plane, fly to New York at their expense, stay in a hotel, come and do our show? And the other question I have, as much of a Randy Rhoads fan as I am, and I'd love to do this, is I don't know where the story is that hasn't been told.
Right.
That's the other thing. I mean, the network is going to say to me, okay, well, where's the hook? What's the story that hasn't been told? Mm-hmm. What are we going to get that hasn't been in countless magazine articles or been told a million times? And I don't know the answer to that. If there was some big payoff that a TV show would lend itself to for that, as far as a visual or what have you, then I think that it would be something that would be easier to do. And, the important thing that people have to understand, too, about our show is, unfortunately, we cannot play music in it.
Right.
So someone may say, well, you could play these cool video clips of Randy playing with Ozzy. No, we can't, because we have a publishing issue. We have a very small budget, and the clearing of that stuff is a bitch. That's why there's no music in the TV show. So people, and I appreciate everybody's excitement to try to come up with ideas, but they don't really understand the obstacles we're up against. And I'd love to do. The only tribute show we've ever done in the history of the show was for Dio,
right?
And because Ronnie had died while we were in production of the show, and there was a story there, and it had just happened, and it was something that we could do. But to go back and do something like that on Randy, as much as I'd love to, I'd have to find a way and a real hook to sell it to the network, taking into account the limitations we have. The other thing, too, is it's 10 years coming up that Dime passed away.
Right.
Which is a huge landmark as well. But again, we've had Vinny on, we've had Phil on, we've had Rex on, we've talked about it countless times. Beyond the fact that it's a landmark anniversary of a tragedy, I don't know where the story is that we could tell that hasn't been told already. So those are the things that I need to hear and to be able to sell to the network to make them want to do it. It's much more involved than just fans online saying you should do this or do that.
Yeah, and plus, I don't know if you could do a Randy show without Ozzy.
And Ozzy doesn't want to do our
Exactly.
show. Sharon won't let him. It's been well documented.
Exactly.
So there's that as well. Now I'll tell you what, Izzy. There's a perfect thing. If Ozzy stepped up and said, "Yeah, I'd like to do this," and would come on the show, if the people who want us to do a Randy Rhoads tribute could deliver Ozzy as the guest or a guest to talk about it, I guarantee you that we could do that show.
Absolutely.
That's exactly what I'm talking about when I say we need name value and stories to be told that haven't been told from people that are faces that VH1 wants. And there's a perfect example of how we could make that work. So if Ozzy was willing to step up and Sharon was willing to step up to do that, I guarantee you I could make that show happen.
And there you go. There is the honest truth of if there will ever be a Randy Rhoads tribute show done by that metal show. It is all in the hands of Ozzy Osbourne and, most importantly, Sharon Osbourne. Here's your chance, Sharon. Stand up. Stand up, be a man, and let Ozzy go on that metal show. And then that can happen. Check out the entire episode, the entire interview with Eddie Trunk. Download it on iTunes. Look for Another Effin' Podcast. You can go on Spreaker, Spreaker.com/user/Izzy Presley, and download the entire show, as well as all the other shows, and my other show called Under the Covers with Izzy Presley. It is Another Effin' Podcast, and I am the host, Izzy Presley.